Welcome back in, Walk-Ins. Welcome, family. We are glad to have you. I'm Nick Horde. You got Michael Ray here with me, and we are excited to talk to you today about growing your clinic. I know we talk about that every day, but today's going to be super hands-on, practical application, numbers and math.
Can we also take a moment to recognize that was the first time you messed up?
You know what? I am focused on the math. And let me just tell you what, I'm not a very high detail person. I'm a very big picture person. So this kind of lends into my personality, but I still have to do math. And I knew that out of the gate, and I got a little thrown off just by like checking my math.
So, you know, if y'all noticed how my Southern's coming out.
There it is.
Addie's Southern came out when we were camping. She's like, "Will y'all just be quiet?"
So that's Addie is Michael's daughter, and she is about the sweetest terror on the planet.
Yes. Anyway, but when you will not hear this, but there was a 4-second recording before this. He's like, "Just start over."
Maybe we'll put that into the blooper at the end.
There you go.
So you got to stay for the whole episode to get that added in.
There's that call to action.
There's the call to action. Hey, listen, here's the deal. We want to make sure that we're helping you get new patients. We want to make sure that you are getting repeat business. We want to make sure that you're providing amazing care for your patients, and we want to make sure that you're growing your revenue. Well, we have discovered, just in working with so many different urgent cares, that the goal for every one of them, ourselves included, is to get you to $3 million in annual revenue. And it's totally doable and totally within reach.
I would say, and like honestly, a lot of the clinics we talk to, they're sitting at that 1 million mark.
1 to 1.2 is what we see, right?
And when we work with them, we watch it grow. And 3 million, what we're finding is like the breaking point to where you think, all right, I need another location now, because I physically can't do much more unless my building grew or my staff grew dramatically.
Or we changed and opened up more locations.
And then, so naturally, we find that a lot of our clinics just have a new city they go into. And it works out well because we have great track records with open a new city, let's go. And then it's booming very quickly. And then we find, I don't know, audience, you tell us, we see that majority of the urgent care, specifically the urgent care space, you're like 1 to 10 locations, and then something happens, you get acquired, or the big boys step in and try to do something, or hospitals step in. But going from 1 to 10 is a huge jump. And here we're talking about today, like if you're doing 10, think about this, optimally speaking, 10 locations, just all the way. That's about $30 million a year.
That's a $30 million business.
Yeah.
But you brought up a good point just a minute ago, and I want to kind of like draw a mental triangle real quick. Mm-hmm. One of these days, I'm going to give me a vibe board, and I'm going to be able to draw all this stuff out, because I am a teacher naturally.
So I feel like we need to do some type of group funding for
Nick's GoFundMe for Nick's Vibe Board.
GoFundMe for Nick's Vibe Board. Donate today.
But what you were talking about is basically 3 ways to grow your clinic. 1, you add more patients.
Right.
2, you can increase your prices. Kinda.
Right. Yeah, to a degree. Right?
And the 3rd is to either add more doctors or more locations.
Right.
But there's a cap on what that building will hold. It's called a fire code.
Yeah, that and then just the reality of like physically there's only so much you can do. And then we also know too, like there are limits around foot traffic and all the things too that are mixed into all that. But and then there's the other piece too. A lot of our urgent care specifically are adding on additional services.
They are adding on additional services, but even with adding on additional services, that'll make up gap for slow seasons. Mm-hmm. But it won't do is allow you to expand on how many patients you can see.
Right.
There's going to be a built-in cap somewhere. And the reason I say that is because with that built-in cap, with current market data that we have, your clinic location is worth about $3 million. And I'm going to break that down today. And I'm hoping that you're driving and listening. But if you're not driving and listening, I love it even better, because you're going to be able to take some notes here, go back and listen to this, bookmark this, and go back and listen. Because what I want to do is I want to unpack, if you will, the strategy to take you from where you are today. I say the strategy, the numbers.
Yeah.
The numbers from where you are today to a $3 million producing standalone clinic.
Yeah, because the reality is if you don't know where you are right now, how do you know where to go next? And if you, chances are, you could probably, when he just said that, you probably rattled off in your head, yeah, we do 22 patients a day average. Like a lot of our clients that we talk to, they can typically rattle off the average daily patients.
Right.
They have a little harder time rattling off what their daily revenue will look like. But if you can start with the patient number then you can start deriving these other numbers pretty quickly.
Well, you hear us say at the opening of every one of these podcasts that we want to help you triple your revenue through digital marketing and exceptional patient experience. I talk about it all the time. Changed it up a little bit today because I'm working on some things for future growth of this podcast and our patient care company. But what I want to talk about today is taking you to that $3 million mark. And so I got some stats here for you that I think is going to be important for the discussion today. The first stat is your cost per acquisition, what it costs to get a new patient through the door. And it ranges between $8 and $27, depending on where you are in the nation.
Yep.
Okay. Now, average business statistics, if you were to go to a college right now, they would tell you if you're in a business, you need to invest 10% of your income in marketing. That's what they would tell you. Okay. Now, with that being said, we are going to average this at $18. And that is a 9% cost per acquisition. So just keep you some numbers there, right? So for you data nerds, I'm not one, I'm a big picture nerd, but I'm trying to granulate this for you. So $18 cost per acquisition, which is a 9% acquisition cost if you're making $200 per patient. And that is the other caveat. What I'm seeing in the data that we're finding out, not only through word of mouth, like us interviewing our clients that are urgent cares, but also the data that I'm finding on the internet that the average patient is worth $200 to an urgent care.
And when we say worth, that is like the revenue coming in the door.
Revenue, yes.
Yeah. We're not talking about your profit margin in this situation. We're talking about your actual revenue. So when we say $1.5 million, $3 million a year, that's your revenue number. And so, but thinking about that $200, and we know that varies. Depends on insurance, depends on the services that were performed, a lot of variance. But at the end of the day, $150, $200 a patient tends to be the average.
So if you take that $18 average cost per acquisition and you divide it by $200, which is your patient value, that's where I came up with the 9% acquisition cost, which makes total sense when all of the universities and all of the data shows that you need to invest 10% into your marketing budget. 9% acquisition cost makes total sense to me.
Yep.
Okay. So let's break this down. The further I dug in, the more I learned that the average clinic, depending on the size, location, and everything, can handle anywhere between 60 and 80 patients a day. I'm going to build off of this data. You can apply it to your clinic however you want.
So
okay?
we're saying 60 to 80 patients per day per location.
So numbers we're going to use. We're going to use an average of $18 cost per acquisition. We're actually going to hit the goal of 60 patients, not 80. I'm only on the bottom of that, okay, because I don't want to break you. And our starting point is going to be 35 patients. That's where you are today. So starting at 35 patients. All right, so let's work out the math here. The goal is to take you from 35 patients a day to 60 patients a day. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight. Okay?
No.
You can't do it overnight. I can't do it overnight.
You don't want to do it overnight.
And that other marketing agency that promises they can is lying to you about getting to you overnight. Like nobody can do it overnight.
And let's think about that too. When we're saying 35 to 60, that's a 25 per day increase, well, almost doubling.
Right.
And nobody wants that overnight. Like nobody wants to turn that switch on and say, here we go. And like, you don't want that because your systems are going to fail. You don't have enough people. And this is what I've known from the past. Businesses fail quicker when there's more volume involved.
There's no doubt about that.
And so
it will expose every flaw you have in your systems.
Yeah, and then you're just going to create a bad reputation, and it just goes away. But this is
repeat that data for me real quick.
It's about the 30. Which part?
All of it.
All of it. So talking about cost per acquisition of an average of $8 to $27, we're going to go with $18, which is 9% acquisition cost based on a $200 value of a patient.
Correct.
And we're making some assumptions here that it's 35 patients per day where you are.
That's where you are.
And we want to get you to 60 patients per day, which is the low side of what the expectation is, which is a 25 patients per day increase.
That is correct.
Yep.
It is 25. So my math is automatically going to be wrong. Great.
Yay.
And this is why I tried to do the math. So I may have to get out the calculator here in just a minute.
I see a 15 in
how
there.
How about we lower from 60 patients, we'll go to 50 patients.
That's even more plausible.
My math works better if we just stick with 50 patients instead of 60.
And with 50, it's more achievable.
That's right. All right. Well, either way, it's achievable, I know, because we have rock stars that listen to this program. But with that, though, the other caveat that's going to be important, I pulled this data just from our current client base. Here's what I've noticed about our clients that own urgent cares. They are open typically 7 days a week, but their Saturdays and Sundays are abbreviated.
Yeah, usually half.
So what I did just for averages is I based it off of a 6-day work week and not a 7-day work week, which gives us 24 days
Of taking patients.
of a month of taking patients. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So scratch the 60. Forget I ever said that and say 50. Okay. So we're going to take you from 35 patients a day to 50 patients a day. Math is hard. All right. This is why I botched the beginning of this podcast, right? All right. So we want to increase by 15 patients a day. That's the deficit in that 35 to 50. Now, we are looking at 24 days. All right. If we need to add 15 patients, multiply that times an $18 cost per acquisition, that gives you $270 a day in marketing budget. I'm going to take $270 a day, and I'm going to multiply that times 24 days in a month. That puts your marketing budget at $6,480.
So for basically $6,500 a month in total marketing budget, we're not necessarily saying 100% digital budget, but we know the math is based on that. Honestly, I would think.
Well, it's going to be highly driven by Google.
It is, and we know that. And like that's the reality. Like we don't shy from that. We're not saying use us because it's just a reality of it, of the whole situation. Google drives a ton of it. But yeah, so $6,500. So think about it this way. So $6,500 a month for marketing gives you an extra, 15 times 24.
Let's do the math on that. I got a calculator. Stall.
So 15 times 24, I'm going to make a guess that's 100. So 360, yeah.
Yeah.
So 360 extra patients a month compared to what you're currently doing. Now, that number sounds large and in charge, but we see those things pretty often. And then we're showing here, if it's 360 new patients averaging $200 a patient, is $72,000 in additional revenue. Now, you compare 6,500 or 6,480 to 72,000, you're now approaching that 9%.
That's right at 9%.
So math is fun, right? And math is something like we're not just pulling these out of the air. Like this is like data we've pulled from previous customer or current customers as well, and it's consistent. Like you're honestly getting that true 10-to-1 return on investment when it comes to marketing and what you're seeing and new patients coming in the door, which is huge. Because think about it this way. What could you do with an extra $72,000 a month, then minus the cost? So really, you're netting before you get into everything else. You're $65,000 that you're getting back in your pocket. What can you do with that? You can hire more people. You can get better equipment. You can grow. In terms of like growing your footprint. There's a lot of things you can do there, and that's not a huge number at the end of the day. The cost, like. That's not a huge number because I'm sure when people go buy their X-ray machines or anything like that, they're spending like a couple $100,000.
Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah,
this gives you a better return on your investment all day long.
Yeah, so it's really impressive stuff because then if you think about it this way, what you spend in a year on your marketing is what you'll make back in a month as well.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about how do we allocate this budget. All right. So one of the things that you have to understand is not 100% of this budget is going to go toward digital. Okay. What I want you to do is understand that a chunk of it is going to go toward digital.
Pretty big chunk.
Yeah. You're going to probably have some postcards you're going to want to mail out. Mm-hmm. You may be allocating some of that budget to teaching and training your front desk staff to make sure that you're getting the repeat business. That's a huge part of it. If somebody comes in, always book a meeting from a meeting. I wish I had that episode number. Always book a meeting from a meeting. If somebody comes in, you want to rebook that. That should be part of your marketing strategy.
Yep.
Part of your marketing strategy should be getting reviews and rewarding those who are actively pursuing those reviews. But what I want you to do is think of the gap and the number of patients. Is it 15? Is it 20 that you want to see in a day? Now, do that math. At 18 times 15, we already did the math on this, is going to be $6,480. Cut that budget in half. That's what goes to digital. Cut that budget in half at any scale. That's what goes to digital.
So we're saying half what your planned spending should be digital.
Should at least.
Yep.
At least. What I'm saying is no less than half.
Yep.
Right? But what I'm also trying to do with this is I'm going to help you stair step. We're not going to take you from 35 to 50 tomorrow.
No.
Right. So to invest like you're already there is insane, but you need to start making progression toward it. And you want to invest in your marketing strategy. Whoever you're using, you want to invest in that marketing strategy. You want to stair step it up. Right. So that's the point. Let's not go to 15 patients immediately. Let's go to 8. Right. Let's go to 8 or 9 patients and let's look at the math on that. Well, that's half of that. That's what you're going to need to spend on digital so that you can reinvest, because eventually you're going to want to go to 50 to 60,
Yep.
which is going to require more budget. And again, math is what it is. The cost per acquisition is going to fluctuate. It depends on where you are. I've got it as little as $8.
Yeah, and we've had these scenarios where, and like people ask, well, why is this different? I'm in urgent care, and so it doesn't matter if I'm in urgent care for another location. Yeah, it really does, because it's not just the location, but it's the competitors in your location.
That's right.
It's the total search in that location, like how many like actual population there is. It's the part of the country that you're in that tends to get more sick than other parts of the country. It's seasonality, where we know that when flu season and things like that roll into play, like that makes a pretty big impact on how many people are coming in the door. So there's a reason why that it's almost a 3x gap there between 8 and 27, because that's just the reality we live in. But going through that, thinking about it, if you're going to simplify this, just think $20 for a patient to come in my door. It costs me $20 to get them there. How many more patients you want, and make the math that simple. So at $20, and I need 5. Well, let's just keep it super simple. I need 5 more patients a day. Well, that means I need to spend $100 a day on marketing to get that 5 patients extra, which means $3,000 a month. Like, it can be that simplistic if you were going to break it down. Just remember $20, how many patients per day, and then that kind of gives you an idea of what kind of. If you're asking yourself, what kind of budget do I need? This is a starting point. But I saw that you did more math.
I did more math, yes, and hopefully I got it right this time. The whole goal
It looks really good.
was to take you from 35 patients a day to 50 patients a day. Almost at 60.
Not 60.
35 to 50.
Yep.
And taking you from 35 to 50, if you amortize that over the entire year, if you're able to do that for 12 months in a row, 50 patients a day while you're open, you're going to make $2.88 million in your clinic.
So there's that $3 million mark.
And then you get to the 60 and you're well over $3 million.
And you're looking for your next location.
You're looking at your next location. That is it, y'all. This is how you take where you are today, grow yourself to a $3 million clinic, and start looking at other locations.
And that's just,
That's the math.
So if you're listening right now and you're like, I wonder if I'm ready for a second location.
Are you at 3 million?
Are you at 3 million? Because that tends to be the number. Now, if you're saying, well, I'm over 3 million, but I'm not making money. Great. You have a hole in your system.
Yeah, you do. Stop buying all the equipment.
Stop buying equipment. Stop overstaffing or paying people things you shouldn't pay them or whatever.
Make sure you're coding correctly.
Yeah, make sure your coding's actually like if you're saying like, oh God, I get 60 patients a day, but I only clock in 1 million. You have a problem.
Well, so these are the things that you need to look at. If you know you're getting a certain amount of patients a day, and you know that on average is worth $200 for a patient, and you're not making that or you're not close to that, you need to see where there's some flaws in your system.
Yeah, we had an interview. I don't know if it'll be out by the time this airs, but we had an interview with a lady that literally her entire company was based on finding the holes in the system.
Yes.
Like the fact that her company exists means it's a problem, right? Like companies deal with this and they either ignore it or they fix it. And here's our telling to you: if you're doing 30 patients a day and not cracking 1 million, you have a problem. If you're doing
Major
problem.
Yes.
If you're doing $3 million,
Let's do the math on that.
what did I say? 30,
You said 30.
30 patients.
30 times, we base it off 24 days in a month.
Yeah.
That's 720 working. That's not right.
Yeah.
So 24 times 12 times 30. That's 318 patients times 200. That the math is not working here, Michael.
Anyway, so at the end of the day, like you're not.
Y'all math, right?
Let me see. So it'd be 720 patients
That looks closer.
Than
That's it. You should be at 30 patients a day. You should be at about 1.7 million.
So that 1.5 million plus mark. And if you're not cracking 1 million at 30 patients a day average, you have a problem.
Yep, major problem. Like you're $500,000 short.
And that's multiple staff people. There's so much there. And then also, and then it kind of comes like, and we also too, I should note this. Most of our clinics that are pushing the $3 million mark, they only have 1 or 2 doctors on staff, and the rest are just the support staff with like a nurse. Like they're not huge staff. Like
Right.
less than 10 people tends to be like not a huge staff going on.
The last thing that I want to talk about before we move out of this episode is frequency. Okay, so we just gave you the number, and I don't think it's aggressive. I think it's spot on. But you can increase or decrease that budget to speed up or slow down your growth.
Yep.
Okay, so I think that's important. You're like, but Nick, I'm not paying $12,000 a month for the 30 patients that I have. Well, that's because you built it over time.
All right.
Right? If you take those 30 patients a day that you've built up to and you multiply it by however many years you have, that and then divide that into your monthly budget. Again, it's a lot of math here, and I get that. The point I'm trying to make is like I'm using a 1 year span. So if your goal is to go from 30 to or 35 to 50 in a year, I just gave you an outline for 1 year. If it's more realistic for you to do that in
2 years.
2 years, take that exact same budget and multiply it by 24 instead of 12.
Yep.
Okay. And that'll divide by 24 instead of 12.
Yep.
And that'll divide that budget up for a much longer term. I'm just giving you the 9% rule, really 10, but 9%, and giving you real world stats to help you grow to 3 million. You don't have to do it overnight. Not every business is meant to 2X every year.
No.
Right? So we get that. I'm just giving you a 1 year snapshot on how to take your business from where you are today to 3 million, if that's assuming you're starting at 35.
So in this episode, we did math.
They probably all just swerved off the road.
And they're like, well, they're all probably like, how many like at the end of the day, just take how many patients if you don't know that number, start there.
Yes.
At the end of the day, if you don't know that number top of your head, start there. Go find out that number today. Chances are you have software that can tell you that very quickly, and then start using this simple math and kind of backing things out, and then you'll have something. Like it's kind of rare. Like I would say when it comes to marketing, rarely math works with marketing. It tends to be like 1 + 1 = 4 or -2. We've seen that all sorts of ways sometimes, but in this very scenario with urgent care specifically, that's one reason why we like working with them. It's predictable, like legitimately predictable.
Well, I mean, the secret ingredient, now this is totally going to sound like a shameless plug, and I apologize in advance, but we
host this podcast.
We're allowed
we
to
can
do that.
plug this.
No, I mean, Patient Care Marketing Pros is our digital marketing agency that's completely focused on urgent cares. Yep. And we have worked with so many urgent cares that this math works for us when we're doing marketing on their behalf. Like we know this data works. We know if you put this $1 in, you're going to get $6 out, right?
Yep.
Like we know it. And it's bared out to be true over and over and over again. So that's not a plug for you to come work for us. That's a plug for the math works.
Yeah, it really does. And then if you ever because I come across these now quite a bit, where you get the Facebook ad that says, "Would you like 30 new patients a month?" Let's be honest, 30 new patients a month is child's play.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't do anything. It doesn't move the needle for you.
Well, I mean, I just like a lot of times when I see those ads, typically it's around a chiropractor or something like that, and
but I've seen like the more like primary care style,
primary cares.
And I'm thinking to myself, like 30 patients extra a month is 1 or 2 extra a day.
Right.
Which
is a good start.
It's a starting point. And that's when they keep the ball low, right?
Right.
Anyway, well, this is fun. I like math.
I'm glad you like math. I was over here working on this before our episode. I was refining the math, and I still botched it.
And then I said 25. He's like, oh, crap.
Yeah, that's not the math. It's not the math. That's too much of a leap. That's not what I was trying to accomplish there. I was trying to get you to 3 million. Listen, if you like what we're doing here and you care about the work that we're doing on this podcast and you think it's a benefit to you, it's probably going to be a benefit to someone else. The best way to get the word out about this podcast is 1, to leave us a review,
Yep.
and 2, to share it. That's it. two things that we're asking you to do. One, go leave us a review on Anchor, on Spotify, on our favorite, which is Apple Podcast. Leave us a review there, and then share it on your social media feed and say, hey, look, these guys, they're speaking our language. We would love for that. That would be the best thing that you could do for us.
And I'll say this too: if you know anybody that would want to be on the podcast, reach out to us. We actually have an interview coming up that's from an active listener.
Yes,
we're very excited about, and so we get to hear from the other side. And she actually works inside of an urgent care, and so we get to hear, like, are we helping you?
that's it.
Are we actually doing things that help you? So we're excited for that. It's been a hot week or hot 2 weeks here down in Birmingham, but we're excited that we got this episode for you guys. Let us know if you got any questions. Please give us a review, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, see you next week.